At the family gathering, my fiancée tenderly wiped the mouth of her childhood friend who had just returned from abroad right in front of me. Sorry, Natalie's always been this considerate. I nodded and then turned to put my coat around my fiancée's sister. Feeding her the shrimp, I peeled myself. If she's so thoughtful, I can't be rude either. Natalie White wiped Julian Rhodes' mouth in front of me. Julian Rhodes looked at me with a challenging gaze. For a brief moment, the atmosphere around the dining table thickened. I peeled the shrimp in my hand, pretending not to care. Julian Rhodes was the first to speak. Sorry, everyone. Don't mind me. Natalie's always been this caring since we were kids. Who asked you? I thought, barely holding back a smile. Besides, since I married Natalie White, haven't I always been the one accommodating her? Thoughtful? That word doesn't suit her at all. Looking at Julian Rhodes, whose features bore a striking resemblance to mine, I suddenly understood. Natalie was gently taking care of him, and he deliberately leaned close to her, shooting me a provocative look. I found it childish and smiled at Natalie. If she's so considerate, I can't be less polite. I then placed the peeled shrimp onto Natalie's sister, Mia Carter's plate, wiped my hands, and draped my coat over her shoulders. Don't catch a cold. Natalie's hand froze midair. The tissue clenched tightly enough to wrinkle it. Julian Rhodes raised an eyebrow, scanning between me and Mia Carter, a teasing smile curling his lips. My brother-in-law is really thoughtful, Mia said sweetly as she wrapped the coat around herself. Sister always says I'm clumsy, but you're so attentive. Natalie's expression flickered, but she quickly restored her gentle smile. Mia's always been a bit spoiled. Don't let her get worse. I leisurely peeled another shrimp, dipped it in sauce, and offered it to Mia. Family should look out for each other. Julian Rhodes suddenly chuckled. Looks like I've changed a lot during my years abroad. He glanced pointedly at Natalie. You used to hate anyone touching your things. Natalie slammed her chopsticks onto the table. I noticed the engagement ring on her ring finger glinting coldly under the light. I'm going to check on the soup, she said, standing up as her skirt swayed with the breeze. Mia blinked her innocent big eyes. Is sister upset? Julian Rhodes leaned back in his chair, his gaze sharp as he looked me over. Interesting. Are you getting back at her? I wiped my hands and met his eyes. Julian's come a long way. Of course, we have to treat him well. The clatter of dishes from the kitchen sounded louder than usual. Mia leaned close, her warm breath brushing my neck. Brother-in-law, playing with fire can burn you, you know. I looked down at her. Behind that innocent face, a sly glint danced in her eyes. So, I wasn't the only actor in this drama. Julian suddenly stood up. I'll help out. Passing by me, he lowered his voice. Don't be too confident. Some habits run deep. Laughter and chatter drifted from the kitchen as Mia's cool fingers slid over the back of my hand. I caught the scent of a familiar perfume on her wrist, the same as Natalie's. I see. This whole carefully staged act had every player hiding their own schemes. I glanced toward the kitchen. The glass door reflected the distorted shadows of the four of us like a surreal puzzle. The soup's ready. Natalie came out carrying the casserole, her face once again the picture of a perfect smile. Julian followed, holding the floral apron Natalie loved. I released Mia's hand and stood to take the pot from Natalie. Our fingers brushed, and her engagement ring pricked sharply against mine. Be careful, it's hot, she said softly, her eyes icy cold. I simmered this soup for 4 hours. Under the table, Mia's high heels lightly brushed my pant leg. Julian pulled out Natalie's chair, his hand naturally resting on her shoulder. The rich soup simmered and bubbled, reflecting our scheming faces. Nathaniel Hale, I heard you got promoted recently. Julian scooped some soup, casually asking, just a departmental restructure, I replied lightly. Noticing Natalie carefully avoided giving Julian any food with scallions, something I hadn't even known. Mia suddenly chimed in. Brother-in-law is too modest. He's actually the youngest vice president at the company. Her tone was inappropriately proud, as if showing off her prized possession. Natalie hesitated with her chopsticks. Really? You never told me. Wanted to surprise you, I lied with a smile. In truth, I only found out last week, when Natalie was supposedly in Hungary accompanying her mother for medical treatment. Later, I saw Julian's social media check-in at Westlake, Hungary, perfectly matching the timeline. Julian gave me a meaningful look. Nathaniel Hale is quite the rising star. No wonder Natalie chose you. That intimate name hit me like a stab. Natalie White once said only those closest to her could call her that. During the first year we were together, every time I called her that, she would blush and quickly correct me. Fate is unpredictable, she'd say. I picked up a piece of fish, carefully removing the bones before placing it into Mia Carter's bowl. Just like Mia and me, we clicked right away. Natalie White's eyes narrowed slightly, a habitual sign of displeasure. That's enough, Nathaniel Hale. She stared at me as if willing me to disappear. Julian Rhodes frowned, then reached out to tuck a stray lock of hair behind Natalie's ear, a comforting gesture that looked practiced, like they'd done it 1,000 times before. Speaking of which, Julian suddenly turned to me. I've known Natalie for 23 years. From when she wore open crotch pants and drooled all the way to now. His gaze lingered on Natalie. I've witnessed every stage. Mia suddenly choked on her drink. I quickly handed her a napkin. When my hand brushed her chin, she gripped my wrist with surprising strength. Brother-in-law, her voice trembled slightly. I want to get some fresh air on the balcony. I knew it wasn't appropriate for me to go with her. But out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Julian's hand resting on Natalie's waist, and Natalie didn't pull away. Annoyed, I helped Mia to her feet. The night breeze was cool on the balcony. Mia leaned against my shoulder, her breath tinged faintly with alcohol. My body stiffened. I was reluctant to accept her touch. You know, she said suddenly, Natalie and Julian were once engaged. That revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. Natalie had never mentioned this. In our 3 years together, she always said I was the first man she seriously considered marrying. When was that? My voice was unnervingly calm. 5 years ago, Mia looked up at me, her eyes shining brightly in the moonlight. Before Julian went abroad, they broke it off because of the distance, but they kept in touch. I recalled the thick stack of airmail envelopes in Natalie's desk drawer. Every time I asked, she said they were from a cousin studying overseas. Why tell me this now? I studied Mia's young face. She was only 22, 5 years younger than Natalie, but the calculating look in her eyes was far beyond her age. Her fingers crept up my tie, gently tugging. Because I hate seeing you in the dark. Her voice dropped lower. And I hate seeing my sister have everything. That sentence was a key unlocking a flood of memories. Mia accidentally broke Natalie's lipstick. She inadvertently wore Natalie's new clothes. And at our engagement party, she accidentally spilled red wine, ruining Natalie's carefully chosen dress. Can you take me home? Mia suddenly asked. I'm feeling a bit unwell. When I returned to the dining room and told Natalie I was taking Mia home, her expression stiffened for a moment. Julian, on the other hand, gave me a knowing smile. Want me to come along? Natalie asked, though her feet showed no intention of moving. No, you stay with Julian. I emphasized the name Julian. He's rarely home. Julian stood, extending his hand. Nathaniel Hale, pleasure to meet you. Hope we get to talk one-on-one sometime. I shook his hand, feeling the pressure he applied. You're welcome any time. On the way to Mia's place, she leaned on my shoulder, her fingers restlessly tracing circles on my chest. Brother-in-law, she said suddenly, if my sister ever doesn't want you anymore, would you consider me? I slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched loudly. You've had too much to drink, I said coldly. At that moment, her phone lit up with a message from her sister. Don't play too rough. Mia giggled and reached for her phone, but accidentally opened the photo gallery. In the fleeting images, I saw photos of Julian and Natalie together, wearing bathrobes, clearly in a hotel room. The date stamp showed it was on our anniversary last year. The day Natalie claimed she was at a bachelorette party with her friends. Mia hurried to lock her phone, but it was too late. My knuckles widened as I gripped the steering wheel tightly. Suddenly, all the pieces clicked into place. Natalie's overtime, her girls' nights out, the nights I couldn't reach her by phone. Are you okay, brother? Mia's voice snapped me back to reality. I took a deep breath. We've arrived. As I helped her out of the car, Mia stood on tiptoe, whispering in my ear. Sister doesn't know, I saw that photo. I don't know if you'd see it either, but if you want to know more, be at my apartment tomorrow night at 8. She slipped me a note, then staggered toward the door, casting me a meaningful glance over her shoulder. On the way back, my phone rang. It was Natalie. Darling, did you get Mia home safely? Her voice was as gentle as ever. Yes, I replied shortly. Julian just left. She continued. He said he really admires you. I almost laughed out loud. Is that so? How about we go try on wedding dresses together tomorrow night? You said the waist needed some adjustments last time. 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Mia Carter's invitation. Sure, I heard myself say. I'm looking forward to it. After hanging up, I parked the car by the curb and unfolded the note Mia had given me. Besides the address, there was a small line. Bring a bottle of red wine. I know you have questions. In the distance, the city lights glittered like stars. Behind every light, I wondered, did secrets hide in the shadows? The next evening at 7:45, I stood beneath Mia Carter's apartment building, holding a bottle of 2015 Bordeaux, the vintage Natalie White loved most. The year we first met, ironically, this bottle was originally meant for our wedding anniversary. As the elevator climbed, I replayed the scene from last night. Natalie wore the silk nightgown I'd gifted her, flipping through a wedding dress magazine on the couch. She looked up and smiled so naturally, as if that hotel photo had never existed. You're back. Is Mia okay? She set the magazine down, bare feet padding over to take my coat. I studied her flawless face, searching for any hint of guilt. She drank too much and said some nonsense. Her fingers paused on my tie. What nonsense? Nothing important. I brushed it off, noticing her engagement ring was missing. Where's your ring? Oh, she said, touching her empty ring finger. I took it off while cooking and forgot to put it back on. A reasonable excuse if I hadn't seen a matching ring on Julian Rhodes's left ring finger. When he served the soup, the simple platinum band and the ring mark on his finger were identical to Natalie's. The doorbell rang once and swung open, as if Mia had been waiting just behind it. She wore a black silk camisole dress. her hair loosely pinned up with strands falling at her neck. The same style Natalie usually wore. I knew you'd come. She took the wine from me, deliberately brushing her fingers over the back of my hand. The apartment was small but elegantly decorated. Embroidered cushions were scattered across a white sofa. On the coffee table, jasmine-scented candles flickered, Natalie's favorite fragrance. The whole space seemed crafted to imitate her sister's taste, but with a deliberate hint of seduction. Have a seat. Mia poured 2 glasses and handed me one. I know you have questions. I cut straight to the point. What's the story with that photo? Mia sipped her wine, leaving a lipstick mark on the rim. I thought you'd ask about their engagement first. I already know about that. I lied. 5 years ago, before Julian went abroad, Mia chuckled softly. Is that what your sister told you? She put down her glass and pulled an envelope from the coffee table drawer. Inside was a stack of photos. The top one showed Natalie and Julian kissing at sunset in Santorini, dated last September. At the time, Natalie had told me she was attending an industry conference in Beijing. I flipped through more dinners together, cuddling in a cinema, even one beneath the cherry blossom tree where I proposed. The date was just a week before my proposal. My voice caught in my throat. They're real. Mia sat beside me, wearing the same perfume as Natalie. My sister and Julian never really broke up. They just hit pause. My fingers clenched the photos, nearly crumpling them. Why? Tell me now. Mia's eyes flickered oddly in the candlelight. Because I can't stand seeing you being lied to. Her hand landed on my knee, and I've liked you since the day we met. Her confession was sudden, yet somehow fitting. I recalled the accidental touches over the past 2 years, the meaningful glances, the calls she made when Natalie wasn't around. Do you know what you're saying? I pulled my hand away. Mia stood and headed toward the bedroom. There's more you need to see. I hesitated, then followed. The bedroom walls were plastered with photos, countless candid shots of Natalie and Julian, some clearly taken without their knowledge. But what shocked me most was a framed photo on the bedside table. Mia and Julian kissing on a beach. That's 3 months ago. Mia's voice went cold. Bali, my sister thought Julian was on a business trip to Singapore. My mind reeled. You and Julian just revenge. Mia shrugged. My sister stole all my boyfriends since high school. This time, I'm one step ahead. This family was far more twisted than I imagined. I turned to leave, but Mia caught me. Don't go. Her tone softened. We can help each other. You want proof against your sister. I can give you that. And Her fingers climbed up my chest. I only want you. I pushed her away. You've had too much to drink. Suddenly, Mia Carter burst into a hysterical laugh. You men are ridiculous. My sister's been playing both of you, and you're still loyal to her. She staggered toward the bathroom. I'm going to wash my face. After she left, I quickly rifled through the drawer on the bedside table. Beneath a pile of cosmetics, I found a USB drive and a diary. Just as I was about to look through them, sounds came from the bathroom. Water running, and something dropping. Mia Carter. I opened the bathroom door and found her kneeling by the toilet, vomiting. An opened bottle of sleeping pills lay on the floor. Damn it, I rushed over to support her. How many did you take? Her face was pale, eyes unfocused. And not me, my sister. Before she could finish, she fainted. I immediately called emergency services. My eyes caught a bottle of men's cologne on the bathroom counter, the same brand Julian Rhodes used today. This discovery muddled my thoughts even further. While waiting for the ambulance, I skimmed the diary. Most entries were filled with resentment toward Natalie White and a twisted love for me. But one passage stood out. Julian says the plan is going smoothly. Nathaniel Hale is completely in the dark. Once we gain control of the company's shares, Natalie will divorce him. Julian promised he'd marry me then, but I know he's lying. It doesn't matter. I just want to see Natalie suffer. That hit me like a bucket of ice water. Control of the company's shares. I had recently been preparing to sign a document transferring part of the shares to Natalie White. Her idea of post-marriage protection. The wail of the ambulance siren snapped me back. After the paramedics took me away, I stood alone in the empty apartment, suddenly realizing I'd fallen into a carefully laid trap. My phone buzzed. A message from Natalie White. The bridal shop had to reschedule last minute. Where are you? I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. Working late at the office. We'll be home later. I packed up the photos and diary and left the apartment. First, I had to check on Mia Carter at the hospital. Then, it was time to confront Natalie White directly. The hospital hallway was harshly lit with cold white light. Mia Carter was diagnosed with mixed drug and alcohol poisoning and needed to be monitored overnight. The doctor said she wasn't in life-threatening condition but required rest. I stood by her bedside for a while, watching her pale face. She looked so young and fragile, nothing like the girl who revealed such darkness in her apartment. A nurse came in. Sir, visiting hours are over. Are you her The word slipped out before I could think, the irony hitting me immediately. As I left the hospital, my phone rang again. This time, it was Julian Rhodes. General Manager Hale, I hear you're negotiating a series of funding. Some friends of mine might be interested. Got time to talk? The timing was suspiciously convenient. Series A financing was a core company secret. Only the board and Natalie White knew the details. I didn't reply. I hung up and drove straight home. On the way, I called the company's legal counsel. Dylan Hayes, hold off on preparing the share transfer agreement. I need to reconsider the terms. When the sensor light at my doorstep lit up, I saw Natalie White's car parked in the lot. The living room lights were still on. I pushed the door open to find Natalie sitting on the sofa holding a glass of red wine. She wore the pale blue nightdress I liked, her hair loose over her shoulders, beautiful enough to be a painting. "You're back," she smiled as she stood. "Finished with work?" I didn't answer. Instead, I tossed the stack of photos onto the coffee table. "Care to explain these?" Natalie's face froze. She slowly picked up the photos, her fingers trembling. Where did you get these?" "That's irrelevant." My voice was cold and steady. "What matters is that during our 3 years together, you were meeting Julian Rhodes's and even dating under the cherry blossom tree where I proposed." Natalie's face drained of color. "That's not what you think." "What is it then?" I cut her off. "Tell me you broke your engagement with Julian 5 years ago. Tell me you went to Hio to accompany your mother to the hospital. Tell me you never betrayed me." Suddenly, she burst into tears, mascara running down her cheeks. "Julian and we did have a past, but when I met you, I decided to end it. He came back last year, said he wanted one last meeting." "One last meeting?" I sneered, pulling up the hotel photo on my phone. "That was on our anniversary last year when you said you were at your best friend's bachelorette party." Seeing the photo, she collapsed onto the sofa like her bones had been pulled out. How do you have this?" "It's not important," I repeated. "What matters is that you and Julian never truly broke up, right? You've been planning this. Wait for me to sign the share transfer, then divorce." Natalie's eyes widened with panic. "Who told you?" Her reaction was basically an admission. "That's not important," I said for the third time, feeling an unprecedented exhaustion wash over me. "What matters is that our relationship ends here." "No." Natalie White lunged forward, grabbing my hand. "Nathaniel Hale, I love you." "Really? That's all in the past now." I pulled my hand free. "Mia Carter is in the hospital. Drug and alcohol poisoning. Before she lost consciousness, she mentioned you." Natalie's expression shifted instantly from pleading to shock, then fury. "She showed you those? That underscores she's been trying to break us apart since day one." Enough. I turned and walked toward the bedroom, beginning to pack my things. "I'll have my lawyer handle the breakup. And as for the company shares, don't hold your breath." Natalie followed me, her voice suddenly cold as ice. "You think it's that simple? Julian Rhodes has leverage you don't know about." I paused. "What do you mean?" She gave me a twisted smile I'd never seen before. "The financial hole in the company last year. How do you think it was filled?" I froze, my heart skipping a beat. There had indeed been an unexplained sum that patched up the company's accounts. I'd assumed it was from a secret investor. "What are you saying?" "Money from the Rhodes family," Natalie said smugly, "disguised as a personal loan if it's withdrawn now, plus penalties." My phone suddenly rang. It was the hospital. A nurse told me Mia Carter had woken up and insisted on seeing me. She said she had something important to tell me. "I have to go." I grabbed my bag and walked past Natalie, who stood frozen in place. "You're going to see her?" Natalie's voice sharpened. That twisted little, what could she possibly know? She only lies. I stopped at the door without looking back. At least she admits when she's lying. The hospital corridor was even quieter than before. Mia Carter's room was at the very end. A nurse stood outside. "She's emotionally unstable," the nurse whispered. "Keeps asking for you." I pushed open the door. Mia Carter was half sitting up in bed, still pale, but with terrifyingly bright eyes. She gripped a phone tightly in her hand. "You came," she croaked. "I knew you would." I pulled a chair next to her bed. "What do you want to say?" Mia unlocked her phone and pulled up an audio file. "Listen to this. Then you'll understand everything." The recording started with background noise. Then Julian Rhodes's clear voice. "The plan's going smoothly. Nathaniel Hale trusts you completely." "Yes. 3 months after the share transfer agreement is signed." "No, not too soon. That would raise suspicion." "Reason for divorce." "Just say irreconcilable differences." "That money, don't worry. The financial hole is enough to control him." Then Natalie White's voice. "What about Mia? She's been hanging around Nathaniel a lot lately." Julian's laugh. "That crazy girl? Don't worry. I've got a way to deal with her." "Does she really think I'll marry her?" "Ridiculous." The recording ended and tears filled Mia's eyes. "I recorded it yesterday without them knowing." She wiped her tears away. "I wanted to use it to threaten my sister, but now I just want you to know the truth." I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. "Why help me?" Mia smiled bitterly. "Because I finally understand that no matter what I do, Julian Rhodes will never love me. And my sister, she'll never give me anything." She looked up. "But you're different. You're the only one who's ever truly been good to me. Even if it's just because I'm like my sister." Her confession sent a pang through my chest. Indeed, over the past 2 years, I had often seen Natalie's shadow in Mia Carter and had been unusually lenient with her because of it. "You need to rest." I stood up, I'll handle this. Mia grabbed my hand suddenly. Watch out for Julian Rhodes. He doesn't just want the company shares. He hates you because my sister really fell for you. When I left the hospital, dawn was breaking. I sat in my car scrolling through unread messages. Over a dozen from Natalie White, the last one was sent 10 minutes ago. We need to talk. Julian Rhodes has leverage on you beyond the company's finances. I'm waiting at home. I deleted the messages and dialed another number. It rang for a long time before someone answered with a groggy voice. Lawyer Dylan Hayes. Sorry to bother you so early. I need you to look into something for me. As the sun rose, I made a decision. It was time to change the rules of this game. Lawyer Dylan Hayes' office was on the top floor of an old building in the financial district with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire CBD. I sat on a leather sofa watching him upload the audio file to his computer. His expression grew more serious by the minute. This recording is enough to prove their conspiracy to commit fraud, Dylan said, pushing up his glasses. But the part about the financial hole, Mr. Hale, if what they say is true, and the Rhodes' family funds covered that gap, things just got complicated. I handed him a USB drive. These are all the financial transactions from last year, including that mysterious fund. James Miller from finance worked late last night to compile it for me. Lawyer Dylan Hayes plugged it into his computer and quickly skimmed through the files, his brows furrowing. This money came through an offshore account. There's no formal loan agreement. Technically, it could be considered a gift or an investment. But clearly Julian Rhodes doesn't see it that way, I said with a cold laugh. He sent a message yesterday implying he intends to use that money to control me. Sunlight poured through the window, harsh and unforgiving, illuminating the unsigned share transfer agreement on the desk. Natalie White had sent 17 messages in a row. The latest one read, Julian Rhodes is planning to meet you today. Don't go, he has leverage on you. Interesting, I muttered, handing my phone to Dylan. Looks like the cracks are forming. Dylan shook his head. Under these circumstances, I advise against meeting either of them alone. We need more solid evidence. I nodded and pulled Mia Carter's diary from my bag. This might help. It's not admissible in court, but it outlines their plan. I flipped to the last page where a freshly written entry stood out. Julian's plan is darker than my sister realizes. He doesn't just want shares. He wants full control of the company. She's just a pawn. So am I, Dylan inhaled sharply. Mr. Hale, this is worse than we thought. The Rhodes family recently acquired 3 smaller companies in your sector. If they get your shares to ... double quotes. My phone buzzed again. It was Mia Carter. I know you're with Dylan Hayes. Julian Rhodes found out about how you handled that data breach last year. He's planning to use it against you. Be careful. My fingers tightened around the phone. That data breach, it had been a trap set by a competitor. I'd used questionable methods to cover it up. If it ever came to light, ... Dylan, I began. I need you to check ... A knock on the door cut me off. The secretary peeked in. Mr. Hale, there's a Miss Carter here. She insists it's a matter of life and death. Dylan and I exchanged a look. Let her in. Mia burst through the door, pale and trembling, a red mark glaring on her cheek like a slap. When she saw me, tears immediately welled up. Nathaniel, Julian ... A cup of hot tea was placed in front of her, but her hands trembled too violently to hold it. He found out about the recording, Mia whispered, her voice shaky. I betrayed him. He hit me. Her teary eyes flicked up to mine, filled with fear. Then he took a call and said, prepare a plan B. I heard him mention the data breach and your car. My car? I stood up abruptly. Mia gripped my wrist tightly. He might have tampered with it just like he did to my father. That hit like a bomb. Mia's father, founder of the White Group, had died 5 years ago in a suspicious car crash. The investigation concluded it was brake failure. Dylan immediately picked up the phone. Security. Get someone to check Mr. Hale's vehicle, especially the brake system. Now. Mia fumbled through her bag and handed me an envelope. I stole this from Julian's safe last night. It's all the original evidence of your company's data breach and the parts he forged. I scanned the documents quickly, feeling a chill creep up my spine. Not only did Julian have the real details of how I covered up the breach, but he'd also fabricated evidence suggesting I had ordered a hacker attack. Enough to destroy me completely and possibly land me in jail. And worse, it looked like he wanted me dead. And this, Mia handed over another folder. Julian Rhodes' family company's financial records from the last 3 years. They've been cooking the books. The fraud is 10 times worse than your company's issue. If this gets out, Dylan's eyes lit up. That's our leverage. I clutched the documents and looked at Mia. Why risk everything to help me? Her eyes softened, suddenly vulnerable. Because I finally saw Julian for what he is. And because Aishibit, her lip, I can't stand by and watch them destroy you. The office fell silent. Outside, storm clouds were gathering. A tempest was coming. My phone rang again. Natalie White, please pick up. Julian's gone mad. He's not just coming after you. He's coming for me and Mia, too. I answered. Her sobs came through immediately. Nathaniel, where are you? I need to see you. Julian has a gun. The rain was pouring. I stood by the window in the company conference room, watching droplets pound the glass. The long table was cluttered with documents. In the center sat the recorder. Dylan walked in. Security is in place. The police are on standby. Are you sure about this? There needs to be an end to this. I straightened my tie. Have they arrived? Mia is in the break room. Julian just pulled into the underground garage. I nodded and sent Mia a text. Stick to the plan. The conference room door burst open. Natalie White stumbled in, makeup ruined, eyes red and swollen. She ran toward me and clung to me tightly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was tricked. I gently pushed her away. Sit down. Let's wait for Julian Rhodes to arrive. Then we'll talk. Natalie White shook her head and stepped back. You don't understand. He's insane. He said if he doesn't get the company, then her gaze fell on the recorder on the table. Her expression changed instantly. What is that? The door opened again. Julian Rhodes walked in with his usual grace, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, showing no sign of madness. He glanced at Natalie White, the corners of his mouth curling into a cold smile. Darling, you really do run fast. Natalie shrank behind me like a frightened rabbit. Julian didn't bat an eye. He walked straight to the table and sat down. Mr. Hale, I assume you've come to a wise decision. I pressed play on the recorder. Their secret conversation echoed clearly through the conference room. Julian's expression didn't change. Amusing. But do you really think that little trick beats this? He threw a stack of photos onto the table. Images of me meeting a hacker last year during the data breach incident, or this. He produced another document, your company's current financials. If that mystery funding were suddenly pulled, well, we both know the consequences. I waited calmly for his performance to end, then asked, what do you want? Simple. Julian smiled. 51% of your shares, you step down from the board. In return, all of this disappears. No photos, no debt. Natalie suddenly screamed, you lied. You told me once he signed the transfer agreement. Enough. Julian snapped, then quickly regained his polished demeanor. Women are always so emotional. Business is business. I turned to Natalie. What did he promise you? Marriage, she replied, tears streaming down her face. He said once he got the shares, he'd leave my sister and marry me. Suddenly, the side door of the conference room opened. Mia Carter walked in holding a tablet. Sister, did you really think he'd marry you? She tapped the screen, revealing a video. In the footage, Julian Rhodes was at a party, arms around another woman, announcing their engagement. The date, just last month. Natalie stood frozen, as if struck by lightning. Julian shot up from his seat. Enough. Nathaniel Hale, sign it, or tomorrow, those photos will be on the desks of the SEC and every major media outlet. Unfazed. I pulled 2 documents from my briefcase. Before I do, you should take a look at these. The first was evidence of financial fraud within the Rhodes family business. Enough to bankrupt them and trigger a criminal investigation. The second was a new police report on Natalie White's father's car accident, clearly noting suspected brake system tampering and naming Julian Rhodes as the primary suspect. Julian's expression changed for the first time. This is slander. And this, ... I pressed a remote. The conference room screen lit up, showing surveillance footage of Julian's assistant tampering with the underside of my car. The police have already arrested him, I added. He seems more than willing to cooperate, especially after seeing these. I gestured to the Rhodes' financial documents. Julian's face turned ashen. He suddenly turned on Natalie. You planned this. You and Nathaniel Hale set me up. Natalie shook her head frantically. No, I love you. I betrayed Nathaniel for you. Enough. I cut through the chaos. Julian Rhodes, you have 2 choices. 1. Drop all claims to my company and sign this NDA. 2. I hand everything over to the police and the media right now. A flicker of malice crossed Julian's eyes, quickly replaced by cold calculation. He picked up the pen and signed. The game's not over. Nathaniel Hale. Just wait for you. It is I retrieve the documents. Security will see you out. When the door finally closed, only Natalie White, Mia Carter, and I remained. Silence fell over the room like a heavy curtain. The rain had stopped. The setting sun pierced the clouds, bathing the room in a deep blood-red light. Natalie collapsed to her knees, her makeup running, the elegance she once held completely gone. Nathaniel Hale, I was wrong. I really did love you. Love, I echoed softly. You've used that word to cover up too many things. Mia walked over and stood beside me. My sister never knew what love was. She just wanted to possess Mom's jewelry, my boyfriend's, and now you. Natalie suddenly raised her head, hatred blazing in her eyes. Shut up, you _ You seduced Julian Rhodes, and now you're trying to steal Nathaniel Hale, too. Mia remained surprisingly calm. I don't need to steal. At least I never betrayed Nathaniel. I walked to the window, gazing out at the freshly washed city. You should both leave. Mia stared at me, stunned. But I helped you, yes, and I'm grateful. I turned to her. But your motives were just as selfish as hers. You used me to get back at her, just like you used Julian Rhodes to hurt her. Mia's lips trembled. She wanted to protest, but said nothing. Natalie staggered to her feet. Nathaniel Hale, is it really over between us? I looked at her, the woman I had once loved, now a stranger. It was over the moment you chose to betray me. When the door finally closed behind them, I stood alone at the window. My phone buzzed. A message from Dylan Hayes, my attorney. All files backed up. Julian RHS signed agreement is fully legally binding. Also, James Miller wants to see you. Says it's important. I took a deep breath, adjusted my tie, and walked toward the door. This war was over, but in business, as in war, peace is never permanent. At the end of the hallway, the sun stretched my shadow long across the floor. I stepped forward without looking.